And
nope.
Okay, we are off to the races. So let me do this.
Oh,
Jason's
Jason's there. Oh, we got the echo now.
Yeah. Can you mute your computer, Liz?
Liz
is now exiting.
Oh, not the phone, the computer. Jason, welcome. You are muted.
Yes, I am.
Oh, you are not muted. Okay, good stuff. So Liz is sorting out some audio stuff, but tell you what, Liz, we'll start, and there'll be time for Q&A at the end anyway. And feel free to chat or enter questions in the chat window as we're going, and we'll look at those at the end. So let's see, actually, Jason came to one of the LBN meetings. So Liz, you may have met Jason already. Joni's on as well. Joni works with me. She is one of my SharePoint consultants, as well as she's the one who's been doing most of the Teams training these days. I'm actually going to do a lot of it today, but I'm going to turn some of it over to her when it gets into some nitty-gritty interaction specific stuff. So let me show you my presentation. Let's start there. And let's do this and see what we get. That's what I was afraid of. So give me a second to do that. And admit Liz back in.
There we got her.
sorry. Liz
Is now joining.
Okay, so let's do this, and I'm going to share desktop 1 so you can see what's going on. All right, so how to work remotely with Office 365. Let me hide this little guy. Jason, we're recording this. I hope you don't mind. Really, Microsoft's positioned very well at the moment with what it has as an offering with Office 365 and what's going on in the world today. So frankly, it's an opportunity for me to help people learn how to leverage what they may already own. So overview of what we're going to do, we're going to look at Office 365 remote and collaboration tools. I'm going to show you how to set up and use the tools. We'll get an introduction to Microsoft Teams, which is what we're using for this meeting. We'll spend a little time showing you how to collaborate with different Office apps. I'll touch on mobile. I've got some resources in the slide deck, and then we'll talk about next steps, and then we can move into Q&A. I will make this slide deck available to everyone at the end of the webinar. And as I mentioned to Liz, Jason, if you got questions, either jot them down or enter them in the chat window so we can get them at the end as we go. So overview of TurtleWorks. Do you hate buying stuff you don't use? Well, we help companies not do that. We help them leverage what they already bought, which is their Microsoft investment. And then we guide them to fix their expensive and painful problems with that technology, therefore unleashing new business growth. So that is what TurtleWorks does. To start off, if you want to get into Office 365, there's various ways to get into it, but if you're sort of brand spanking new to it, or you're in a situation where you know, you're not going into Outlook right away, or you're not going somewhere right away, you can just go to office.com, enter that URL, and it will give you the place to log in. You log in with your Office 365 account, and then you have access to most everything you need. And I'll show you how to do that. Microsoft, due to the current situation, is providing free Office 361 E1 licenses for 6 months. So that's about an $8 a month. If you were to buy it yourself, I think it's around $8 a month to do that. So they're making that available for free. That gives you most everything you need to work with Office, to do remote work, etc. So it's generous on their side for sure. and the tools are rich. So if you don't have licensing, I'm not going to get into how to do that during this webinar. Just, hit me up afterwards and we can go through how to get you signed on. And I will make myself available for free one-on-one for an hour after this webinar. So just, hit me up. We can find some time that works for both of us, and we can work through any extra hand-holding that you need, or if you've got licensing issues, some specific questions, maybe you're trying to do something that we didn't cover during the webinar, or maybe you're just stuck. So that's available. So getting started, we're faced with a login screen, and maybe you've seen these screens before, but in the browser, we usually have in the upper right corner, we have this little icon. Sometimes you'll see your face there, you might see your name, but if you haven't logged in, you get this guy, right? And if you click on that guy, you get a pop-up screen that looks like this. And if you've logged in before and you said, yeah, remember my account, you'll see it appear there. And then you can also pick use another account. Now this next screen is where people get confused. Am I a work or school account, or is this a personal account? I don't know, and I don't want to make the wrong decision. Well, it's not bad if you make the wrong decision. You just go log back in and choose the other one. But if you don't know which one to choose, if you have Office 365, then you're going to use your work or school account. If you work for a company, and I know both of you have your solopreneurs, I believe. So if you just have your own and you bought Office 365, it's still a work account. So you would just use that. If you needed to get access to some aspect of Microsoft products, but you don't have Office 365 licensing because somebody shared it with you, or you're using their Outlook.com thing, which is a free personal email, that's where you would use a personal account. And then you're presented after you make that selection with the password screen. So this experience is just, this is how Microsoft prompts you to get you to log in for most any of their services. And the process and screens look the same. Once you log in and authenticate, they then know what you have access to, and the app you were trying to get to will look at that token and say, oh yeah, you have Office 365, we'll let you in, or you don't have Office 365, sorry. So those are pretty common. Let me jump to that experience. I'm using a virtual machine to sort of obscure, because I'm logged in on my regular machine, it knows who I am. So I'm doing this so you get that experience. So here's that office.com website, right? And oops, and I'm going to click on the login screen. Now, if I click here, it already knows my credentials. And in this case, I tell it to save my password. But I'm going to choose this one so that you get that other experience. So normally I have to type in here, but because I was prepping earlier, I don't. And then I can click next, and I get that question. I know that I actually do have a personal account that's jwaynes@turtle.works. And I do have the work account, so I have to choose this. There is a note down here that if you want, you can rename this account so you don't get this screen anymore. I just noticed that yesterday, so I got to look more into that. So I'm going to click work or school, enter my password. If I click sign in, now I have something called multi-factor authentication turned on. What that does is it actually sends an approval request to my phone, and I have to tap approve on my phone to let me in. I've tapped my phone. Now you see I didn't click the mouse at all. It's doing its own thing. It recognized that I tapped my phone to get in. And now I'm going to click yes to stay signed in. Microsoft is actually encouraging people to not change their password anymore, which is really strange, except You only want to do that if you've turned on multi-factor authentication. So what that does is it means you have to know your login account, you have to know the password, you also have to own some device or something that only you have, which is your phone, and then interacting with your phone gets you in. So if somebody knows my password and my username, they still cannot get into my Office 365 because they don't have my phone. If you're not using multi-factor authentication, then I do recommend that you change your password. The issue is people sort of recycle their passwords, and it's Red Shoes 1 and Red Shoes 2 and Red Shoes with a capital R, and that's not really secure. So, or they have stuff peppered on paper somewhere because they change it so often they're afraid of forgetting it. So we're now in that main office.com screen, and at this point we're faced with a bunch of icons for the normal Office applications that you're used to and some things you're probably not used to. So Outlook, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and I'm not sure you've used OneNote. I'm not sure you've used SharePoint or Teams. Maybe you've used OneDrive. So let's keep going here. So a couple things I want to talk about in this screen, and this, again, this ribbon up at the top is reused in many places within the Office 365 experience. You'll see this when you're in SharePoint. You may see it if you're using Teams in the browser. But we have this thing over here that's affectionately called the waffle. If you hover over it, it says App Launcher. That's the other name for it, but I normally call it waffle, and Microsoft does as well. And we'll see the same applications that you can get to here that you could get to on the main page, and some documents and new and other things, just like if you scroll down here. Over here, you'll see this button that says Install Office, and we'll spend a little time on that. There's JW, and if I click on this, there's my account profile. That's where you could change your password if you wanted to. You can sign out from here, and the question mark is help, of course. And if we go here, I'm sorry, under the gear, under settings is where you change your password, and there you can change your theme if you want to, language, time zone, those kinds of things. Over here, if I click on my Office profile, that's where I get sort of who is Joe, who is Susie, who is Fred, you know, details about who you are. So, and you can change those here by updating your profile. So that's all I'll touch on there. Let me see, installing Office. So let's go ahead and start this. So if you don't have, so if you bought a brand new laptop, you go to office.com, you log in, and now you need to load Word, Excel, all of those tools. It's as simple as going here, clicking Install Office, making the choice to install the Office apps, which you can see what's included, Outlook, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, or you can choose little things to install. So we just want to get to Office 365 and just follow the bouncing ball, right? So we're going to click Run down here. We're going to say yes to start installing, and then you have to stay online. So it'll take a while for the installation to complete. At some point, you can probably start using Word or Excel or Outlook, but it's still installing Office in the background. I'm going to go ahead and click Run. And I'm going to click yes, like they say. And we're getting things ready. And I'm not going to wait too long here. I'm just going to let it run in the background. I'm going to jump out of VirtualBox, and I'm going to jump out of my presentation so that I can get to office.com over here. Okay, so same screen we were seeing in VirtualBox, except it's now on my laptop directly. So let's talk about these online applications. So if I were to click Outlook or Word or Excel, most of these, they will actually run in the browser. So you don't have to have Word, Excel installed locally as an application. It will absolutely run in the browser. So I will go ahead and do that. We'll jump over here to, and we'll see Excel, right? So what do I want to do? I want to create a new workbook, open an existing template. I'm going to open this template because it gives us a little better experience of what is available once we do that. So it's now loading online Excel. And once it loads, I can pretty much get to about 80% of the functionality that Excel has is available within the browser. That is true for PowerPoint and Word as well. One note, the browser-based version seems to be identical to the desktop application version. There doesn't seem to be any features that aren't available in the browser. So if we click here, we'll see there's the formula bar and equals today. We've got, similar menus that you're used to seeing up here. We don't have, on the desktop application, if you click home, you have those little areas where they have the stuff grouped. We don't get that experience here. But I think you can figure out how it works, right? So formulas are here. If you want to create a new tab, you just click here to create a new worksheet. You can grab rows. You can do the delete rows, insert, all of the stuff that you're used to dealing with in the desktop application, you can still do in the browser. If for some reason you do need to get to the desktop application, we always have something like this in the applications. So I'm going to click open in desktop app. It pops this thing up. It's probably going to open in my other screen. I have two screens on this computer. So let's see. Oh, it opened up on the right screen. Good. So this is now the standard Excel. And if I click home, now we'll get the standard ribbon we're used to seeing. But in this case, it's identical. Now, the question that you might be asking is, where's my file being saved to? Well, wherever you opened your file up in the browser is where it's being saved to. So if I were to make changes here, and there, I made a change. You'll see up here it says autosave is on. That means it's automatically saved. You can see it says saved up here now. I'm going to go ahead and close this workbook. I'm going to resume editing here and go back to that calendar tab. And there's that text that I just typed in. So it saved it right back to that cloud location, if you will. So you don't have to worry about, oh, I saved it, now I got to drag it back to, SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams, whatever. No, it will automatically save it back to where you started from. One other thing I'd like to point out is whenever you create a new document in Office 365 and you're doing it online, it'll be book 1 or document 1 or book 2. The easiest way to get it named the way you want is just go to File, Save As, and Rename. And we'll call this Thursday Seminar. And we click OK. So now it just renamed that file. So that's the easiest way to do that. Let me see. What do we want to touch on? So we got setup running. Let's take a peek at setup. Please stay online while Office downloads will be done in just a moment. Just let that cook. And we've been through that. Okay, so let's move into Microsoft Teams. Now, if we click Teams here, Teams really prefers that you use the desktop application. I'm not sure why, but they do. Interesting. It just made a liar out of me. Normally, you actually get a screen that looks like this one. It says download the Teams desktop app and stay better connected. And like they really are encouraging you to use the desktop version. In this case, it didn't. I'm going to dismiss that. Here's the button to download the desktop app. I already have it downloaded. It's already here, and there you guys are. So let's move into here. Okay, so what do we do with Teams? Well, web meetings, obviously. You can make phone calls to people who are also using Teams. So anyone who's using Teams, you can call them. You can't call my, 586 number with the standard version of Teams. You can pay a couple extra bucks and do a little configuration, and then you can actually do that as well. So you can do chat. So if you remember Instant Messenger, what we're really seeing is Instant Messenger evolved into something like Skype, and then it evolved into Teams. So we still have the chat feature, but it's much richer. We can create and use a team, and within a team we can create and use channels, and we'll talk about those. We can share files, share notes, and we can work with other applications like Planner and SharePoint and Shifts, and there's hundreds of applications available. And there's a free version. So if you, hey, I just need Teams, there's a free version of Teams available that you can use to do that. So you don't have to load all of Office 365. You can just do that. Microsoft provides a quick start guide for Teams, and I will include it with the presentation that I send you. Do I have it open already? I think that I do. Yes, I do. What it gives us is sort of a rich explanation of the various aspects of Teams. So within Teams, we have this bar on the left, which is sort of how you drive Teams. It's how you get around in Teams. You can view and organize your teams. We've got chat and activity here. We'll spend some time on that. There's personal apps. There's more apps. Then there's, the teams here, and then within the teams we have the channels. You can start a chat with anyone, again, who's on Teams. So you can do it there. There's various other places you can do that as well, but that's one place to get to it. There's the search or command bar here. We're looking at the Mark B project team, and all of these little guys are known as tabs. And each of these has a different application. So conversation is like chat. Files is what you would think. A wiki is a wiki. Power BI is a business intelligence reporting solution that's within the Office 365 suite. And almost the sky is the limit as to what kind of tabs you can add and what they do. And we'll show you some of that. You can manage your profile settings similar to when we were in office.com. You can manage the team, so you can let somebody in the team, you can exclude someone from the team, you can make them an owner or make them just a member. You can add files to chat, you can reply to chat, you can compose a message, and down here is where you join or create a team. So if you get a team code, you can enter it here and that'll let you join the team. Or you can just click create and create your own team from there. Let me see what else we want to touch on. Let's dive into Teams a little bit. Stop talking about it. So right now on my desktop, I have 2 windows that are associated with Teams. And when you're doing a web meeting like we are, this is sort of the main experience you see where, you know, other people's pictures are available. And then there's this other little dialogue here. I'm not sure if you can see it or not. Sometimes those are hidden. And this is I'm not sure what we call this, but it's always there. It's always another window for Teams. So once we're in Teams and you want to actually interact with Teams, you just go over to this area here and we can click on Teams, and now we're within Teams. We can go to activity, we can go to chat. Now, I was going to have Joni talk about activity, and I was going to have her talk about chat because she knows this stuff better than I do, and I thought it would be worthwhile. Joni, do you want to share your screen, or do you want to try to take control of mine?
I can share my screen. It's fine.
Okay, so I'm going to stop presenting my screen, and she's going to start presenting hers.
So let me know when you guys can see my screen.
I can see your screen.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so like Joe was saying, you have your left-hand navigation over here. So this is your navigation within Teams. These are all of my different teams over here. So a lot of times you can see I have a lot of different teams. So
Can I
I get
interrupt you a
Yep.
second? In the lower center of your screen, you'll see a bar with 3 buttons. If you click on those 3 buttons, there's an enter full screen mode, which will let you see things a little better. Okay, go ahead, Joni.
Okay. So since I have a lot of teams, a lot of times I get notifications or activity all over the place. When I do, I don't have to go hunting and pecking through all these different teams to go, oh, what's going on? It all comes right up in here and in my activity feed, which is great. For instance, Cindy mentioned me, she mentioned me, which means anytime you do the @ symbol and you type somebody's name, they'll get a notification within Teams. And it shows up right here. So it tells me who, and as you can see here, projects, this is the team, followed by, if you have a little caret here, the channel, which every team is automatically created with a general channel. You can't get rid of it. So if you guys have additional channels, it might be named there, but usually you'll see general. So I can quickly see what's going on. You get the dates, you get the timestamp. So if you're doing a lot of different work and a lot of different teams and a lot of different channels, this is a great way to kind of keep on track of what you've responded to, especially with the @ mentions. So you can just quickly get there. Like I can bounce, between different things. Okay, so it brings me up, Joe mentioned me here, and it automatically saw how the kind of screen changed from where Cindy was to where Joe was. So if I click on Cindy again, it automatically brings me to the @ mention, so I can just start working. Same thing with this one. You guys see kind of how it's toggling back, so I can immediately reply and know what's going on. So it's a really nice thing. Also, I think Joe mentioned you guys were kind of, entrepreneurs working for yourself, but within a business, if you ever have a situation where you kind of need to submit something as to, what you've been doing on a daily basis, especially with the given situation, this is kind of a great tool for that. You can filter if you need to. It's just a basic type to filter. I don't think we really need to review that too much, but it's there for you if you need it. And then also you can mark things as on read. So if you looked at it but just don't have time to deal with it because you want to take another look at it, I can mark it as on read, and it kind of bolds it and flags it for you so that you can come back and know that you need to handle it, which is really nice. That's the basic of the activity. Did you want me to go through chat right away then, Joe,
Yeah,
too?
go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the next one down is chats. What I normally tell people with the chat is anything that you want to have a conversation with that would be outside you using a team for. So a lot of this would be like one-off conversations. So within the chat, it's pretty much you can chat anybody you want. As you can see here, I've got different people that I've been chatting. Joe's obviously one of them. The nice thing is it keeps the history. Think of your chat on your phone. It's kind of same idea. But a couple different features that I have here working within Teams, the biggest one that you can see is the file. So if Joe and I ever share a file, well, it's maybe somewhere within the chat, you don't have to scroll around looking for it. It's automatically saved in the Files tab. Now, caveat to that is that file is only saved within the files of the chat, but not within a team. So just keep that in mind as you're sharing files, and whether or not it needs to be shared just individually with one person or with your team. The other nice feature is that right from within the chat, you can go ahead and you can do a video call, an audio call, or you can just go ahead and start screen sharing. So
Yeah,
once
so
we
our,
get,
our workflow typically is I find Joni in chat. Hey, you got a minute? Yeah. And then I click the call or video button and we start talking.
yeah, so you can see he just messaged me here. The nice thing too is that you can tell when somebody's available or when they're in a meeting. So obviously I get Joe's status that he's in a call. My status up here is also that. So you can kind of know when you can ping somebody. Otherwise you can just let the chat be and they'll get a little red dot up here if they have a chat that they haven't answered. But if they're green, then they're available. But some of the nice features within chat are, obviously you can start typing, but you have the ability to format. Hopefully you guys can see at the bottom of this. If you can't, let me know. I'll try to move my screen up.
No, we can see.
You can set delivery options. So like if you
Ooh.
really need an answer because you're on the phone, say like you're on the phone with another client or something, and like they asked you a question, and like you really need to respond back to it or something, while you're still on the phone, you can do that and set that as an urgent or an important. It's defaulted obviously to standard. This is where you can insert your files, and this is actually a fairly cool feature. You can click on this and you can either select from your OneDrive or upload from your computer or from Teams itself if you are syncing your documents from SharePoint and everything as well. So it just opens up your File Explorer. There's my OneDrive personal. You have lots of different options for this. It's not going to do it.
It's not behaving.
No. You can also upload from
There's
the team
there's
itself.
another screen that appears and it's been flaking out a little bit today. Can select the various teams and just go get files from that team.
It normally defaults to that. When you click on it, it will default to opening up the folder for the team itself, and you'll be able to get the files from. Well, that's because we're in chat. We're not in team. When we're in team, I'll do that.
Okay.
So I can add any attachment from SharePoint if I'm syncing the folder from my OneDrive, if that's what I choose, or just my desktop or anything else, and it will come in right from there. So let me just grab something here real quick so you guys can see that. I like playing with my son's lesson plan for some reason. If you need to, you can do emojis and everything. Those don't really, they might be easier for you to send the thumbs up, than rather than okay or something. These are kind of the basic stickers and GIFs. The schedule a meeting from here is kind of interesting. Once you click it, it opens up a new window. So it kind of takes some of the work out of it because it automatically sees who you're chatting. So it automatically puts that in for you. And then it's kind of like a normal Outlook calendar invite. Everything kind of stays the same. You can add a channel if you choose to at this point. So say you are, like Joe said, we do collaborate a lot like this because I'm working out of my house, he's working out of his house, especially now. So say we are talking about a project, and we were chatting and he's like, yeah, go ahead and set up a meeting for that. Then I can just come in here and automatically select, this and that we're going to talk about this channel. So we kind of already know what we're talking about, and I can add a title and go from there. I'll close out of that. So that's kind of cool. And then when you record stuff, your videos automatically go to Microsoft Stream. So if there was a reason that you wanted to input one of those recordings, say you did another training or you were having another meeting that your boss or somebody else couldn't be a part of, you have the ability to put that link in here and they can get to it. It's just kind of a nice quick feature, but that's the basis of chat. So let me just send this off so you can kind of see what it looks like. Okay, so there you go. So once you send it, like I mentioned with the files, you can scroll and you can get to them here, and we can open this up from here if we want to. But the cool thing is, without you guys doing anything, it automatically comes into here. So that makes it really nice. And as you guys can see, when Joe chats me, I get a notification down here so I can immediately reply, or as you can see, I haven't responded to it. So this is how you can tell when you have activity, and I can come in here, and this is also bolded. So I have a couple different ways to know what I need to work on. So within the chat, I have recents, and then I have contacts, and I have pinned. So if there's people that you're chatting with, and there's a lot of them, you can always select to pin them to the top. To do that, you go over to these ellipses here, and I can mark as read, or if it's unread, I can mark it as unread. Did I say that right? The opposite of what I just said. Or I can unpin it. So if I unpin him, he'll just end up coming down here. If I pin him, he's automatically going to be at the top. Then he'll stay up here underneath my pinned. And then the nice feature with this particular chat in the setup is, I know we all know one person who likes to hit enter after like every 3 words. You can actually mute somebody. So Joe, I don't know if you want to try this so you can show them how this works, but if we go into chat, I'm going to mute him.
So you want me to be annoying?
Yeah, so yeah, go ahead, go, hey, are you there? And keep hitting enter after like every word. I won't get the notifications down here anymore. So remember how he just sent me one? I'm not getting those notifications because he's muted right now. So, that way if I'm in a meeting, a status meeting or something, that's good. I'm not getting distracted by that because it's really easy to, especially with that popping up in the corner or anything. So you can always choose to mute individuals if need be. You'll still get all the messages once you get back in there. And then I can unmute him as needed. But we all have that one person we know that probably does that. So that is a nice feature if you need to. Very good during presentations or something, so you're not getting all those pop-ups. Or if you're just head down, in work and you just don't want to be disturbed. You can also do notify when available. So like in this case, remember how I was talking about the status icons on everybody? He's red. If I really need his attention and I really as soon as he's done with his meeting, I want to know, I can turn that on and then I'll get a little notification. Otherwise I can just turn that off, but that's a couple nice features about that. Otherwise, below the pinned, you have your recents, and these are all the apps talking to you, basically. So you see a lot of these don't have people. This is a lot of the different functionality within Teams talking to me, which is why I tend to pin the people to the top, because otherwise stuff can get lost within here. So normally that's like that for me. I think that's pretty much it. You can always add people to chat by coming up here, and I can start to add a name. So if I wanted to chat GJ, there it is. I always spell his name wrong. I can add him, and then I can actually start typing him. It's a group chat right now because we've done a group chat with DJ and Joe. But you also get notifications that he is out of the office and may not respond. So you kind of can tell where people are at and what to expect as far as everything else. So yeah, I think that covers it. I guess we'll go over questions and stuff later.
Yeah, thank you, Joni.
Yep.
All right, so let's go back to presentation. I should go back to sharing my screen.
I was gonna say, you kind of see where the chat is good in the Teams itself.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we did the quick start guide. We've done activity in chat. Let's talk about meetings and calls. So let me do an F5. Oh, Korean. Let me do an F5 here. Shift F5. Okay. So one of the things that people often just use Teams for is for meetings and calls. That's certainly where I started. So web meetings is something that we're doing right now. We're used to Zoom, we're used to GoToMeeting and WebEx and all those things. So Teams is the tool of choice for web meetings from Microsoft these days. You may be familiar with Skype or Skype for Business. Skype for Business is going away. Microsoft doesn't want to support two web meeting audio technologies. And my experience has been that Teams, the quality and experience is better than the Skype for Business experience. So at this point, I don't use Skype for Business anymore unless somebody sends me a Skype for Business meeting. So we can do things like Meet Now, we can schedule meetings. There's several ways we can do schedule meetings, and I'll get into that. I think the camera part is obvious because both of you have got it going. How to get meeting info to someone, how to share your screen, chat, device settings, on and on and on and on. So I took screenshots of these different features because often when you're interacting with them, nobody else can see it because it's just something that they hide from everyone else, so it's not distracting. So when you hover your mouse inside of Teams during a web meeting, you'll see this bar appear. And I mentioned that if you click on the three dots, you can go to full screen mode, which is what this guy is here. So first thing is, this is how long the meeting's been going on. This is whether you want video or not. This is whether to mute your mic or not. This is the button for sharing your screen, and it'll change and there'll be an X at the top if you want to stop sharing. So you just click on it again and you'll stop sharing. This is chat. So we did a little chatting back and forth, but if you want to do a chat to the participants, that's where you would go to get that going. This button here, if you click it, we can add more people to the meeting. So this is obviously ending the call. Let's jump over to what shows up under this flyout menu. So start recording. That's what we're doing. We're recording this, and interesting. I'm not sure what this one is. I'm guessing that it does just that. I wouldn't see your video feed coming in. Keypad, that's for a number pad. Turn on live captions, that's new. It's preview. I haven't worked with it. I wonder if that actually figures out what you're saying and writes it across the bottom. I bet that it does. Start video with a blur. What that does is it blurs the background. So if you're concerned because you're sitting in your kid's bedroom doing a meeting, because that's the place you could find, you can blur the background so people don't actually see the area that you're in. Device settings. So if it's not picking up my headset, it's not doing what I need to do, this is where you would go to fool with your microphone and speaker settings. Meeting notes is just what it says. And the other thing that people often need to do is they start a meeting, they're in the meeting, it's like, you know what, we need Mike to get in this meeting so we can get some questions answered. Well, you call Mike on the phone. Hey, Mike, we got a meeting going on. Can you join? Mike says, sure, send me the info. And then you go, how do I do that? Well, you go three dots, show meeting details, and then that gives you a flyout. There's a button there that says copy meeting info. You click copy, it goes to your clipboard, you go to email, you hit paste, it pastes all that information in there. So it's essentially what appeared in the meeting invite that you have on your calendar. If you don't need to do web, people can just call in and use the phone part. Teams has no restrictions. Let me think about this. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I'm able to have meetings with people who are outside of Teams or outside of Office 365, as well as people who have existing subscriptions to Office 365. What else? Device settings, mute, we got into recording. And then finally getting back to Teams during a meeting. I talked about that earlier with the two windows. You just click on one, and whichever one gives you that bar along the left side. is the one that, yeah, whichever one gives you this bar here is the window you want. And then you just click on one of those buttons and you can start interacting with Teams proper. So let's dive in a little bit to actual Teams. So let's go to here and let's go to here and let's look at, so here's all of these teams that I have exposed. Projects is one that we use for demoing, and you'll see the general channel. If I need to create a new channel, I just click on this and I can add a channel for, Thursday webinar and Office 365 seminar. And it's accessible to everyone on the team. And I'll talk about that a little bit. But that'll create a new channel, and that new channel by default has posts, so that's sort of dialogue going back and forth, and it has files and it has wiki. But if I want, I can go over here and I can add other stuff like OneNote or Planner or Power BI or SharePoint Stream, and then we get into all these other tabs that are available. I don't even know what a lot of these are, but they're out there for us to use and add. Some of these are paid for services, so you add them and then you have to, get into a subscription experience. I'm trying to, like, boxes for, I believe, sharing files. Anyway, these are non-Microsoft apps down here. But they work within Teams. Up here are many of the Microsoft apps. Planner is a project management tool. It's sort of a light one that works pretty well. We're using it. Stream is Microsoft's video, basically their YouTube, but it's not exposed to the public. It's only exposed to people that you share with or have Office 365 license. Forms is what you filled out to register for this seminar. So it took me about 5 minutes to create that registration screen and give you a link, and you click on it and you fill it out, and I then can go and look at who's responded. I can export a spreadsheet of all the information that you entered and deal with it. So Forms is a really handy tool for doing surveys or getting information, and that you can expose to the entire internet if you want. There's no licensing required for the people who are using the form. The only one who needs a license is the person creating the form. So let's go to the HR department. Here we have some apps across the top. So posts is obvious, files, again, that's the 3rd grade lesson plan. HR Planner, so this is what's known as Microsoft Planner. This is that project management tool that I talked about. We use this at TurtleWorks for managing projects, and I'm able to, when I have meetings with my team, I go and I look at my Planner hub to see all the projects that I'm associated with, and then I can ask whoever I'm meeting with what's going on. So I added this task, and it's, you click on it, and here you have your options of what buckets it's in. So I don't know if you're familiar with Trello or Kanban. It's a manufacturing concept, at least Kanban is, but it's the idea that we have these buckets or channels or columns that stuff moves through. So we can add a completed bucket. So this is to do, it hasn't been started. I could rename this channel to not started. So it's been assigned to Joni. When I did that, she received an email that it was assigned, standard, where's it at, what's its priority, start date, due date, any notes. You can create a checklist within that task. You can add attachments, comment, and now here you can start a dialogue again, right? So showing this task during demo. And send it. And I believe you get an email, don't you, Joni?
I do. Did you just hear it come in?
No, I didn't, but
Yep.
so she got an email indicating that I commented on this task. So now she's aware from that perspective. And I suspect if she went to activity, she would see something there as well. Now, if she's ready to work on this, she just drags it over into the in progress bucket. And now we know that it's in progress. And if we go here, you'll see that it's in the in progress button instead of the not started button. So that gives you a sense of what Planner is. Meeting Notes is OneNote. So I don't know if you're familiar with OneNote, but it's interesting. I was expecting to see the other thing here.
If you go into general, you're in HR. I think the one that you're looking for is in general because it has all the stuff.
Project Notebook. There we go. So because of the demand on Office 365 right now, they're not letting us edit inside of Teams for OneNote at the moment. But you just click this link and it will open in the browser and you can edit it there.
Don't laugh at my drawings.
I thought I might have typed that.
No, you typed that. I was showing
Okay.
that you could draw within OneNote, and that's what I came up with.
And I guess that's a good point. If you're not familiar with OneNote, it's very, very rich with, you can take pictures, you can take video, you can drag files in there. I do not have a notepad on my desktop in the last 5 years. When I started using OneNote, I no longer needed that notepad that has the 4 and 5 pages with phone numbers and names and whatever. That's all gone. I have not had one for 5 years because anytime I get a phone call, I go to OneNote, I find their notebook, and I just start typing. And for me, I use the desktop application to do that because it's a little quicker than waiting for the browser to display, but all my notebooks are here. I can just bop into one, get to what I need to get to, and
they're syncing
there
back
you go.
and forth too.
And there's,
so.
yeah, exactly. So even though it's my desktop application, it's stored within SharePoint. So it's out there in the cloud and it's syncing back and forth. So we're at 3 o'clock. I don't know if we got to do a hard stop or if you have a few extra minutes for me to wrap up. You tell me.
I have a few.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
All right.
I'm good.
So let's get to collaboration. So almost anywhere within Office 365, if you're working in Excel, Word, PowerPoint, OneNote, and you need to work with someone else, is it general, Joni?
General files and then financial sample.
Yeah, okay. This guy here, I was just looking for a spreadsheet, essentially is what I was looking for. So this is just an Excel file that is appearing in Teams, and I can go in here and I can work with it as I want. But eventually we're going to see Joni show up.
I'm getting there. It's thinking. Okay, I'm in. You should see me in just a second. I see you.
Okay. Yeah, I'll move around, type something.
Okay.
Oh, see this little JS? That's Joni, and she's editing over here. So now we can see where each other where each other is working, and we can work with parts of the workbook that they're not working with. So I could literally go to sheet 2 and start fiddling with sheet 2 while she's in sheet 1. The same is true in Word, PowerPoint, OneNote. Matter of fact, with OneNote, I use it so much, any meeting I go to, I have it open and I'm taking notes. And these days, Joni's in the meetings with me. So she's taking notes in the same notebook I'm taking notes in. which is very handy. So this is available pretty much anywhere in Office 365. In Teams, if you're in SharePoint and you know, open an Excel file, I believe it works in OneDrive as well. So really nice feature if you have to work on some stuff together with someone else. You get them on the phone, you start talking, and you can just start working together. Mobile. So here, let me just drag this over so you can see. So Microsoft has acknowledged that they didn't win the phone war. And they, at this point, they write apps for iOS first, and then they write them for Android second. So Apple's usually a little bit ahead. At least that's the way it was about 2 years ago. They may, I don't know how they deal with it today, if that's still the case. There's individual apps, and they're free for almost everything. So standard Office apps. Office Lens is an interesting thing that lets you use your phone to take pictures of business cards or whiteboards. And if you tell it it's a whiteboard, it will use some intelligence, some artificial intelligence to figure out where the board is and take the keystoning out, you know, the where it doesn't look square, it'll figure that out. And if you take that picture, at least if you put it into OneNote, it can do OCR, so optical character recognition, on what was on the whiteboard and actually convert it to text. I don't know if it'll work like that on the phone. Most of the time I don't need to do OCR, but it is handy for taking pictures of whiteboards, business cards, etc. And they've recently released, they're just calling it the Office app, and it has these 4 items in there. So it's one app that does Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Lens, and it will let you, again, store your files anywhere, SharePoint, OneDrive. I'll let you in on a secret. Microsoft Teams is really SharePoint under the hood. So when you're saving files into Teams, you're really saving it into SharePoint. And then, you know, we have Outlook, we have OneNote, we've got a Teams app, a SharePoint app, you know, et cetera. They're all available for the phone. They work pretty well. I have edited spreadsheets and still do edit spreadsheets on my phone. I'll be out somewhere and I've got to enter something, and I do it. OneNote's really handy, so I use that when I'm going into a meeting and I've got to remember someone's name or something that I need to talk about. I'll just pull it up on my phone before I go in the meeting and you know, just take a quick refresher before I walk in there. So I don't have to pull out my laptop to look at my notes. End user guidance. So this, again, I'm giving you the slide deck, but there's a welcome video, the quick start guide, which we looked at. There's some quick start videos, and then there's you know, how to do meetings in Teams. There's some videos on that. So Microsoft's done a good job. There's also this end user training stuff. They've done a good job of providing you with resources to keep going. And I know, Liz, you've heard about this, but Jason, you haven't, I don't believe. So, well, BWHRC, which is Deanna Wilmarth's company, is offering a seminar, a webinar actually, on a paperless online solution, paperless HR essentially. And it's a solution that we have that's built on top of Office 365, on top of SharePoint. And it will give people an understanding what's available for a reasonable price. It has something unique, which I guess a lot of HR systems don't have, in that it allows for self-service. It allows for employees to submit requests to HR. So with the fact that we're all working remotely, that makes HR a little easier. If an employee needs to get something from HR, they can go to this portal and submit their request, as opposed to getting into the whole email chain thing. So that is coming up April 9th. And then there's a fellow named Joe Marr who's running a series, a free series on selling virtually. So I think there's about 6 sections. Yeah, 6 sections on selling virtually. I actually attended the second session today and expect to attend the rest. So he's giving that away, which is something Sandler tells you never to do. But based on the circumstances, he is willing to give 30, 45 minutes of his time once a week to help people figure out how to sell while they're supposed to be at home. So there were some good ideas that came out of today's session. You all know how to contact me. As I mentioned, feel free to hit me up for an hour, no cost, just to help you get going if you need it. And my only ask from you is, I'm going to throw this in, wrong one. My only ask from you is that you just go to that post in LinkedIn and do a like and leave a comment for me.
Sure.
And let me see, is there anything else? Q&A. So it's 8 after. I'll stay for a few more minutes, but I guess I'm interested in any questions you have. See if I can help you out, or we can push it to a one-on-one if that's required.
I think I'm good.
Yeah, I think I had a couple of questions as you were going, but I'm going through my notes here. I think they were answered. So let me just double check here.
Sure.
So you can invite somebody who is not currently or have Teams loaded on their computer. You could invite them to a webcam or one of these, and they're going to kind of go just through their browser. Then they don't have to download any program or anything.
So if you invite them to a web meeting, when they go to click on that join the Microsoft Teams online meeting like you did, they're given a choice to use the web version or use the desktop app. So if they don't have Teams, just tell them to use the web version. It's much quicker. They could download the desktop app, but it's just cumbersome. So just have them use the web version. It'll ask for their name. They can, just put Fred or their initials. It's not validating anything. It just needs a handle. And then it just runs in the browser. They can share their screen. They can do that kind of stuff through the browser. There aren't many limitations. Honestly, there aren't many limitations on the web meeting piece these days within Teams. So I've switched to it completely. So for several years, I was using GoToMeeting instead. And then Skype for Business, because it gave me what I needed, and Teams wasn't mature, but Teams is very mature now for that. Oh, you're muted, or I'm not sure why I lost your.
What's the competitive software that's or platform that's out there that would directly compete with Slack?
Yeah. So, and really the key is if you have Office 365, there's 2 ways that people look at this. It's like, oh, Microsoft's just copying Slack. Yeah, but on the other hand, if you're already using Office 365, you're already paying for the licensing. Microsoft said, hey, that's a really good idea. Let's make that available for our customers as well. They've added it in. There's no additional cost. So if you want to use Slack, you got to pay for Office 365 and Slack. Why not just use Teams? And there's a whole program development environment in Teams now that I'm not sure is available within Slack. That is very exciting for me. I think, frankly, that is the direction of my business. Is working to help companies leverage Teams in a more productive application perspective, in addition to just using the standard things, I can build custom programs that appear as tabs within Teams now. So that's a big win for me to be able to provide that.
So I just used Zoom for the first time this morning. So how does that compare to all of them?
If all you want to do is web meetings, Zoom is a great product. It's simple to use. It just works, but you got to pay for it. So again, if you have Teams, you got a web meeting tool. Why do you want to pay for two? And Zoom doesn't do all of the other things that Teams does.
Okay.
But if you're just doing web meetings, Zoom is a great tool.
Okay.
Well, yeah, thank you very much, Joe. I think I don't have any more questions. That was very informative, though. I do appreciate
All
it.
right, good stuff.
Yeah. Thank you.
Everybody's doing well?
We're doing okay. Yeah, yeah, we're doing okay.
Okay.
Yeah. How about you?
Doing well. Yeah, it's interesting times. A lot of change, and I'm just trying to stay up on all of it and really taking some time to get some education. So I appreciate the free hour and 20 minutes. It's very valuable. Thank you, Joe.
All right.
And
You're
Joni as well.
Yep.
You're
All
welcome.
right. Bye now.
Okay. Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
But I guess the seniors, I don't know what's gonna happen with them. They just done it and done. Everybody else get credit for the next year. Nope. Everything closed.